Assalamualaikum everyone. Today we are going to study DSM-5-TR, which is a revised version of DSM-5. So today's lecture is going to be very important because in this lecture we will be discussing the key changes which have been made in DSM-5-TR in terms of diagnostic criteria, organization, and new feature disorders. So let's get started. DSM-5-TR has been published with the efforts of hundreds of people, hard work, who worked over a 12-year period and identify many lackings in DSM-5. Because every day the nature of disorders or the nature of symptom of each disorder were fluctuating. There were so many comorbidity cases in which the symptoms were overlapping in one disorder to another disorder, and it was very hard to give an appropriate diagnosis. Furthermore, the organization of disorder were found to be very vague in DSM-5, and they were trying to reorganize the disorder considering the risk factor, comorbidity, prevalence rate, etiological factor, and many other aspects of DSM of any disorder. Furthermore, another need was observed to make changes in DSM-5 were new emerging disorder. Like there were few symptoms which have not been identified as any major disorder. It was not mentioned in DSM-5 anywhere. So with the new name, with the cluster of symptom, new disorder have been introduced in DSM-5-TR which were not present in DSM-5. So apart from all these points, another reason for developing DSM-5-TR was enhancing the usefulness of the manual for the clinician, researchers, and psychologists, because they are the DSM-5-TR are providing more instructions for using the scales, making diagnosis more clear and precise, so it enhanced the usefulness of DSM-5. Furthermore, it was providing the common language. There were very vague terminology in DSM-5, but now the easy terms and many terminologies have been replaced, which we will be discussing in the upcoming slides. So it also made the diagnosis very feasible for all the researchers, clinicians, and psychologists. Furthermore, the current research need also providing the evidences that the current DSM-5-TR is not meeting the needs of the researchers, because there were so many lagging in terms of prevalence, comorbidity, because the previous version was established in 2016 and the prevalence rate has been increased for many disorders due to COVID-19 and other circumstances. Therefore, it was very mandatory to revise the manual and update all the statistics in the DSM-5-TR. But apart from this need, one thing has been observed while studying the DSM-5-TR, which is the clinical training experience has become the necessity for the clinician before using the DSM-5-TR, because without the clinical training and experience, it is hard to understand like what changes have been made and how to diagnose, prognose, even different, how to give the differential and even provisional diagnosis. So apart from this, if I summarize all the points, so revision of DSM-5 have been started in 2009 and finally the DSM-5 published in 2022. While making the changes, over 200 multidisciplinary subject matter experts were involved in making the key changes. Among 64% were psychiatrists, 30% of participants were psychologists, and only 6% were other mental health professionals, and the combination of psychiatrists, psychologists, and other mental health professionals produced very authentic manual for all of us. So while they were working, there were 20 disorder review group, and each disorder was headed by a section head who were, confirming either there is a need to make changes or not. Furthermore, apart from this evaluation process, the literature review of past 10 years also been, observed while making changes, because as I told you earlier, the prevalence, comorbidity, incidence, and other statistics were found to be very different in past 10 years. Therefore, the need of these changes have been observed. Alright, so now before starting the changes in DSM-5-TR, we should understand the development of DSM-5-TR, including the historical background. So basically, DSM has been introduced in 1952. It was the original version of DSM, and in this original version there were 106 diagnoses, and it was comprising on 132 pages. In the first DSM, there were a term reaction was used to illustrate any kind of disorder. For example, all the disorders have been categorized like every kind of abnormality is a reaction of biological, social, and psychological reactions, and they were elaborating all disorder with the term of reaction. In the original DSM, there were only two groups, which were organic and functional. Organic group were covering all biological disorders, biological oriented disorder, and functional were representing the psychological and behavioral deficit oriented problems or mental health issues. So in 1968, the DSM-2 was revised, and in DSM-2, the term reaction was removed because it was very vague and it was not fulfilling the criteria of any disorder. So they revised the term reaction with the ICD-8 code, and in this manual there were 185 new diagnoses of new disorders have been incorporated in this manual, and the term neurosis have also been used to define the reality contact and reality distortion oriented facts. In 1980, a great revolution occurred with the emergence of DSM-3 because many diagnoses were found to be lacking in DSM-2, and again 265 diagnoses have been introduced. New disorder have been added in this category, and again, because in DSM-2 the ICD-8 codes were being used, then they revised the criteria, and ICD-9 codes have been incorporated to give diagnosis of any disorder. And in DSM-3, many other aspects have also been added. For example, the innovation in methodology and how they can use the diagnosis, what are the etiological factors, what are the key causes of any disorder have also been inculcated in the section. Furthermore, the multi-axial system represents multiple categorization, like either it is a substance or mental health issue. Axis 2 represent the personality disorder and mental retardation. Axis 3 shows general medical condition. Psychosis and environmental problem have been categorized in Axis 4, and in Axis 5 global assessment of functioning oriented disorder have been inculcated. So in DSM-3 we can see the extension and better version of DSM, but again the progress was keep going on, and in 1987 the DSM DSM-3 text revise was introduced, in which again new disorder have been introduced, and basically changes in criteria and diagnostic criteria have been made, which were a great contribution again, because in DSM-3 the diagnostic criteria was very specific, but here details have been added. I'm not telling you the too much details about any version of DSM, because our key focus should be DSM-5-TR. So after DSM-3-TR, DSM-4 was also introduced because there was a dire need to add more diagnosis or more disorder in the manual, and some inclusion were also made, such as clinical significant criterion were introduced, in which clinical symptoms, how would we diagnose a person if he is clinically or significantly falling in any disorder, were clarified. And in 2000 the need of text revise in DSM-4 was observed, and again the number of diagnoses were same, but the 5-part Excel system was removed, and they kept the consistency with ICD. And in DSM-5, few more disorders have been included in DSM-5-TR, and there were 947 pages, in which the onset of any disorder were introduced, like what is the age when the first time the disorder occurred and how it proceeded to the current or worst condition. Apart from this, the cross-cultural situation have also been introduced. So these were the changes which have been made in 5 manual, and the DSM-5 was considered to be a complete manual, but fortunately 2022 many other changes have been observed in society community due to multiple environmental changes. So DSM-5 text revise was published, which includes 299 diagnoses. It just added one more new disorder, and uh, so they revised the text and diagnostic criteria and added one more disorder. So it was the development of DSM-5-TR, and in every new version there was some contribution which was very productive. Otherwise the first version was very vague. Even if we evaluate the second, third and fourth version, there were some lacking, and finally DSM-5-TR is meeting the current need of our diagnostic criteria, but still it is not the last version. With time many changes will occur, and they will keep revising all the manuals. So now let's talk about what changes have been made in DSM-5-TR. So again, as I told you, DSM-5-TR has 3 main sections. The first section is introductory section, and in introductory section they have elaborated what are the key functions and key changes which have been made in DSM-5-TR. And in section 2 they kept their focus on disorder related changes, like in what criteria the changes have been made, what new disorder have been added, and how the other disorder related changes have been incorporated in DSM-5-TR. Furthermore, in section 3, how we can use a statistical measure or any scales while measuring the symptom severity have also been introduced, and how we can use it. There is a proper guideline in this section. And so let's get start with the first section, which is the introductory section. So first of all, DSM-5-TR revised its classification, and its classification has been revised in 3 major categories. The first category is regrouping of disorder. For example, the disorder were reorganized considering the risk factor. For example, if biological reasons are leading to any disorder, so all biological categories have been separated, and in biological oriented category, all the disorder which can happen just due to biological reason were categorized uh, in a different classification. For example, furthermore, morbidity oriented disorder have been grouped in another section, like the symptom who are over which are overlapping and looks very similar in nature have been have been separated and put in different classification. Furthermore, ADHD was found to be more suitable in conduct disorder, but because it was also a biological disorder, therefore it was replaced in again neurodevelopmental disorder. Furthermore, some regrouping have been made considering the internalizing and externalizing disorder. Internalizing disorder again represent the the disorder which emerged due to man, internal management, or you can say disbalance. And external disorder represent all the disorder of behavioral deficits, such as mood disorder and substance abuse disorder and many other like this. Apart from regrouping of disorder, they also, classify disorder combining the development and lifespan consideration. For example, a few disorder happens in early life age. For example, ADHD, neurodevelopmental disorder, and a few disorder occurs in adolescence age, such as mood disorder and grief-oriented disorder. And there are many disorders which occurs in in late life. For example, neurocognitive disorder and Alzheimer, and uh, which disturb the personal, occupational, and social functioning of person. Lastly, if we talk about the classification oriented change, so harmonization with ICD is ongoing process. Currently, the DSM-5-TR is following the ICD-10 codes, but harmonization with ICD-11 is also has also been kept in touch, so that the further changes can be made as per the need of the time. Apart from classification, some other changes have been made in cultural, racism, and discrimination oriented terminologies. For example, the term race and racial has been replaced by racialized to highlight the socially constructed nature of race. Previously, when we used to think about race, so or racial, so some biological categorization began to emerge in our mind. For example, race is all about black and white color, so they therefore they replace this term with rationalized to highlight that races are just a social construct rather than the biological one. So again, another terminology, ethno-racial, used to denote the US Census Bureau categories. For example, ethno-racial represent the Hispanic, white, African, American, which has been used and ethnic and rationalized identifiers. They made some other changes in cultural racism and discrimination. For example, they avoided the terminology such as minority and non-white, because according to them, the minority and non-white represent the least privileged group of society, and they do not want to feel any person least prioritized in any community. Therefore, such terminology have been removed from on DSM-5-TR. Furthermore, Latinx replaces with Latino and Latina because, according to them, this term better represents their community. Caucasian replaced with non-Latinx white, and previous data on specific ethno-racial ethnographical group included when possible. They, instead of calling someone minority and non-white, they prefer to, illustrate the number of people or ratio of people through prevalence rate. Like this, like 5% of people in American society are Hispanic and 10% of people, rather than using the minority word. So these changes have also been made, which were very sensitive, and the researcher kept their least focus on making these changes. But now this revolutionary changes have been made, and I hope this will be overcoming the racist oriented, racist culture and discrimination oriented gaps. In DSM-5-TR, some key conceptual framework and approaches have been introduced. For example, they categorize, they illustrate two key approaches. The first one is categorical approach to diagnosis, and the other one is dimensional approach to diagnosis. When you are giving diagnosis, first of all you categorize either a people is suffering from schizophrenia, bipolar, anxiety or depression. Existing of any disease represent the categorical approach of diagnosis. So when you categorize a person is in that particular category of disease, then we use the dimensional approach to diagnosis, which is the quantification of attributes. For example, in categorical approach, if you say the person is suffering from schizophrenia, so in dimensional approach you will identify how intense and what is the severity level of that particular problem. For example, what is the severity of hallucination, how frequently he experienced delusion. So these two approaches, the combination of these two approaches have been inculcated in DSM-5-TR, which is very informative. Apart from these, in the introduction section, a few more changes have been made, which is considered types of information in DSM-5-TR. So now, what type of information DSM-5-TR provides to clinicians, researchers and practitioners is, first of all, it provides a clear recording procedure as per DSM ICD-10 CM diagnostic codes. So how would you be recording if a person is suffering from depression, anxiety, stress? There are some codes to record the procedure, so it provides you a clear understanding about these. Furthermore, DSM-5-TR provides you the subtypes or specifier if this disease is present. So which type of disease is more prevalent in that particular person has also been included in DSM-5-TR. Furthermore, they have introduced another feature, which is a diagnostic feature, which provides the key points of interpretation, how you are going to interpret any disease. Furthermore, they have introduced the associated feature, and as associated features are not the directly linked in criteria or not have been included in criteria, but they somehow represent that along with the disorder a person may have or must have these type of symptom as well. Furthermore, prevalence rate were revised in DSM-5-TR, because in DSM-5 there were very old prevalence rate which were not sufficient enough to represent the current ratio of our disorder, of any disorder. Therefore, this is another key aspect which is very important in DSM-5-TR. Furthermore, they have introduced the development and course which represent the lifetime pattern of presentation, considering any disease. And it was also present in DSM-5, but now they have elaborated it a bit more. Then risk and prognostic factors also have been highlighted in DSM-5-TR, and it is very important to identify how much chances of recovery are there to mitigate the adverse effect of any symptom or any disorder. Culture related diagnostic issue have also been highlighted, because it is very important. If a person is suffering from schizophrenia in Pakistan, so he or she may have different set of symptoms. Maybe the nature of delusion and hallucination are different in due to cultural context. So culture related aspect have also been elaborated to differentiate between diverse culture, and how we can tackle such issues and give the proper diagnosis. Sex and gender related diagnostic issue have also been resolved, and the terminologies has also been changed in DSM-5-TR, which I'll be discussing in upcoming slides. uh, Another new terminology has been introduced, which is diagnostic markers, which provides the objective measures of any disorders, and association with suicidal thoughts and behavior. Any disorder in which the suicidal thoughts and behavior emerge have also been highlighted. Furthermore, functional consequences, like how a disorder is affecting day-to-day life of an individual, were also been included and discussed in details. Then differential diagnosis have also been enlarged and provide information in detail in DSM-5-TR. Comorbidity related issue have also been highlighted in detail. So these are the changes which have been made in section 1. Now we shall be moving towards section 2, and again in section 2, as I told you, DSM-5-TR introduce the disorder related changes, and we shall be discussing it now. So first of all, in DSM-5-TR, diagnosis for children were revised. As you can see, the autism spectrum disorder criterion A phrases have been replaced. Previously in criterion A, it was mentioned as manifested by following was replaced with as manifested by all of the following. There were some options, like if a person is having repetitive behavior, communication problem and other symptoms, so he will be diagnosed with he must be having any two of following symptoms, so he will be diagnosed as autism spectrum disorder. Now they do not specify anything, but they elaborated as manifested by all of the following symptoms, like all the mentioned symptoms must be present in a person while giving the diagnosis. Again, disruptive mood dysregulation disorder. Previously it was an adult disorder, and children were not categorized in such kind of a disorder, and the children were not given that diagnosis of disruptive mood dysregulation disorder. But now it can be diagnosed in children too, even between the ages of 6 to 18. If a person is 6 year old, if a child is 6 or 7 year old, he can also can be diagnosed with mood dysregulation disorder. Apart from that, PTSD, PTS, sorry, Revisions in PTSD have also been made. For example, that the children who witness any incident or any trauma through electronics have been revised with in-person observation or in-person witness. So now electronic exposure have been included from PTSD. So these changes have been made in DSM-5-TR, and now we can see the adult oriented disorder and what key changes have been made. We will be discussing that. First of all, intellectual disorders or intellectual development, the intellectual disorder replaced with intellectual developmental disorder. So it is just a change in name, and the major depressive disorder criterion D have been changed. If I will start elaborating what was that criterion D, so it will be very hard to cover the lecture in the given time, but I am just highlighting the key points, and once we will be studying disorder one by one, so I'll be highlighting all the changes with examples and with the diagnostic criteria. So attenuated psychosis syndrome, phrase with relative intact reality testing was removed to show the intact reality testing. And in avoidant restrictive food intake disorder, the criterion A was removed. Furthermore, bipolar disorder severity specifier, new description for severity specifier, and even unspecified have been added, and the previous one has been removed. As far as delirium disorder is concerned, so reduce orientation replaced with the reduce awareness. Previously, orientation word was used. Now they have replaced the orientation word with awareness. Narcolepsy subtypes have also been revised, and it was kept aligned with ICD-3 and ICD-11 codes. Furthermore, in social anxiety, social phobia terminology have been removed, and as I told earlier, PTSD electronic witnesses have been removed. It goes same for the children and adults as well. Apart from all these substance and medication induced disorder, criterion A terminologies change. Elevated, expensive, or irritability replaced with abnormally elevated, abnormally expensive, or irritability have been added. So these were the disorder related changes. Furthermore, a name of disorder have also been changed, like conversion disorder. New name is functional neurological syndrome, and gender dysphoria has been replaced with experienced gender, and male and female, um, with individual assigned male at birth or individual assigned female at birth. Natal male or natal female have been replaced with these two terminologies. And cross-sex treatment rhyme with gender affirming treatment rhyme, and so it was also the terminology you can say change. The treatment rhyme have been replaced with affirming treatment rhyme. Another new disorder have been added in DSM-5-TR, which is prolonged grief disorder. It was not previously mentioned in DSM-5, so it is a new addition in DSM-5-TR. So now we shall be moving towards section 3, which provides the changes regarding assessment measures. So changes regarding assessment measure represent that how we can use many scales to identify the categories and symptom severity of any disorder. So in when we use any scale, so there are some boxes about if the person is male or female. If a person, what is the name of the person and what he or she does. So male and female check boxes from the form have been removed from DSM-5-TR. Now we no longer identify if a person is male or female who is filling the form. So a clinical rated dimension of psychosis symptom severity measure. The instruction for use the measure were edited in keep with criteria specifiers, severity specifier for schizophrenia and other psychotic disorder. Previously, the instructions were, according to the old criteria, but because the criteria for schizophrenia have been a bit changed, and therefore also the severity specifier have also been added in schizophrenia. Now the new instruction how we can use different measure to identify specifier have also been described in details. Furthermore, there are some code which provides the World Health Organization disability assessment schedule were added to instruction on how calculate the summary score of WHODAS. For example, there are some instruction according to WHO how you can summarize if a person is suffering from any disorder, how to give them the codes. And the very important point which is mentioned in section 3, they introduce the cultural formulated interview. For example, if a person is conducting any interview for anxiety, depression, stress, or even psychotic patient, so they can add relevant item as per their cultural context to gain in-depth and meaningful information about the client. So these were the changes which have been made in DSM-5-TR, and I hope you are clear with it. But if there are some queries, you can ask your question. Thank you so much.